past 8 o'clock this morning, and we're still on the issues from the Anambra State governorship elections. Joining us this time is Richard Nwankwo. He's of the Crusade for Justice and also a lawyer. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Well, the question I'm tempted to ask you is that why is it looks like a personal question, that your state is causing the country some headache? You're from Anambra State. Why can't we get a credible election from your state?
Well, I think what is actually playing out in Anambra is being blown out of proportion by the media, and of course, you know, and sadly too, that most of the political gladiators are traditional opposition people, and there's every likelihood that this battle will more or less be fought within the confines of the media, and that is what is completely playing out, because everything has been blown out of proportion.
You know, I like it when people say it's the media. You know, it gives me a little bit of chuckle when people put it before the media. But we have actually seen a lot of people talking, and almost all the candidates but one have all been talking. And they say, well, the process, and even INEC, the electoral umpire, is saying that, well, we're guilty. We didn't handle it properly because one of our own actually messed the process up. And you say, well, it's a creation of the media.
Yes, you see, you have to look at that from a very, very realistic point of view. I mean, what is the magnitude of this non-compliance or the deviation from electoral norms? That is what we should address. The mere fact that people, virtually everybody is making comments and making very unguarded comments about the performance of INEC. I believe some of these people are not being very fair enough in their comments. And we all have been around within the past few years, and we've seen elections conducted, and we've seen massive electoral deviation in terms of the traditional norms. And if you look at what is happening here, you find out that the complaints are being placed on a very narrow compass. And that is my excitement.
I don't know how you've been able to gauge the complaints, because, well, if we to actually gauge it by what we see or hear, or the noise and protest, I don't think it's narrow or it's small.
I will give you a classical example. It's rather unfortunate, for instance, that the PDP candidate and maybe two other members of his family, noticed that their names were missing from the list. But in realistic terms, we are talking about three people. We are talking about three people. And then if you narrow down to these strategic areas where some of these complaints are coming from, we find out that it's also a very, very small segment of the entire Anambra platform. And my take is that it is really unrealistic. If you are traveling from here to Onitsha, and you get to Onitsha, to Asaba, and you have a flat tire, somebody tells you now, please go back to Lagos and inflate your tire and then continue to Onitsha. That is the import of the complaints we are getting on a daily basis. And it is not our responsibility to assign lawyers to political parties. They should have in-house legal advisors. And these advisors should be people who are on the ground, not politicians. These advisors should be people who understand the rudiments of law, and not just politicians.
When you talk about rudiments of law,
that is what is playing out. And that
is why I wanted you to actually explain more on this. When you talk about the rudiments of law, is it that most of the cries or outcry we've heard so far haven't actually been on the path of injustice?
Yes, I must be very, very open here. If you look at the complaints, and then if you take a cue from what Barrister Ezala just said, you see, if you look at Section 133 of the new electoral act as amended, it is clearly stated that the only way you can object to an election result is through petition, and that petition must go to either a court or a tribunal. So all the comments they are making, they are calling on INEC to cancel the election. I think all these calls are misplaced. And these calls are being made, predicated out of gross information, misinformation.
In your opinion, how would you, what would you say about the elections of November 16?
Well, for a start, I should say that there were indices of non-compliance, which is also traditional in our elections. And in fact, I've never seen any election that took place in this country without such snippets of challenges. People's names not being reflected in some of these registered and all that. And of course, you must take into consideration our background. When some of these people are making some of these comments, they should predicate that on the fact that they are talking about a background where you need to power some of these PCs and computer-related materials that are used by a generator, and where you have to generate some of these things. You know, a lot of issues. You're talking about maintenance of some of these records. A lot of issues are involved. I'm not an advocate. I'm not trying to justify the blunders from INEC. But what I'm saying is that the mileage they have covered so far should and ought not to be jettisoned, because some people feel aggrieved by the turnout of the election so far. My take is that they should conclude the process, and if anybody is aggrieved, they should take advantage of the provisions of the electoral law.
Talking about the mileage, I mean, this is not the first time the election umpires are conducting elections. They've done this before. We've had some, even this year, and they've been commended for those ones. One would think that some of the mistakes of the past should not be repeated. You talked about issues of people's names being missing from the register. It's like a recurrent decimal.
Yes, you see, this is quite unfortunate. I believe that when we criticize, we should do that slightly on the part of...
what's unfortunate that we're having a recurring decimal?
Yes,
is unfortunate.
It is absolutely unfortunate.
So it doesn't that imply that we're not learning from the past?
What I think we should do is that we should come together and find a way of moving ahead.
Who's the we?
I'm talking about the stakeholders. I'm talking about INEC. I'm talking about the political parties. I'm talking about the electorate. There is no way you can do these things in isolation. There should be proper education. And let me just point out one fact. When some of these people keep talking about non-compliance, and that is why I believe that INEC appears to have a very good legal team. And whatever they do now appears to be a fallout of very sound legal advice. If you read section 139, you find out that even for you to go beyond that, when you're talking about invalidation, you must also show that non-compliance substantially affected the outcome of the election, not just that you didn't vote. If 10 people didn't vote in my ward, and you go to court and you say that you were disenfranchised, you have to go beyond that. Not the mere fact that you didn't vote is not conclusive.
Okay,
you have to go beyond that.
Looking at the issue of compliance, I mean, about 1.7 million people registered, and less than 500,000 voted. Is that substantial compliance?
What is substantial compliance? Is there any quorum in an electoral process? Is there any quorum in an electoral process? If some of these votes, if the votes cast fall into the confines of votes that should be invalidated, of course they will do that. What I'm saying is that you now see that, one, there was little or no education. Even though the Act empowers INEC to embark on massive electoral education, but I never saw that. That was not done. And of course, the political parties, of course, on their own. But when the trend of the results that came out in some of these local governments started to have a color of a likelihood of a particular individual coming up tops, of course, we now notice a very sudden gang up, and that is what is being played out in so many areas. I also learned that some women went out to demonstrate from probably within the Oka metropolis. I'm from Oka, and I do not align myself with some of these sentiments being expressed, because we believe that these candidates are good, and this is the first time. This is the first time we have a group of contenders that we know that they are actually good. That if you put them in office, that they will perform. But my take is that for very, very isolated and sporadic incidents of this nature, it is not enough for us to say, you now come back to Lagos and then continue your journey to Onitsha.
You know, it's a matter, you seem here that we're dealing with a matter of perception, and that, you know, we have not been able to do any scientific analysis, because Mr. Ezeala, one of the things he was talking about is analyzing critically the voter register, which you also say that you have to prove in the courts if you're going to be talking about substantial compliance. But even though, as you rightly said, that it will seem that there is a tradition, it is becoming it's something that is almost expected, that some names will always be missing from the voting register. It makes the headlines when one of the candidates, who is supposed to be House of Representatives member-elect, his name is missing and that of his family members missing as well. You would wonder, doesn't he know that he should register or go and check that his name is there? It does raise critical questions about the register that was used in that election, doesn't it?
Of course. You see, we are not saying that there is no inkling of blemish on the part of INEC. It is very, very clear that there were obvious lapses. And you see, because of the way this particular election was approached, there was a lot of hype. And I think these are some of the issues that are also radically playing out now. My take is that these sporadic and isolated incidents are things that can be handled, and it is not enough. These issues are not enough to call for an outright cancellation. And of course, INEC lacks the legal competence to do that. Like I have told you, that the Constitution, the Electoral Act is clear. Section 133, subsection 1 makes it clear that the only protest that will be accommodated after an election is a notice of petition. Now, and that means you have to approach the tribunal.
If we're looking at 113 votes cancelled in an election that about less than 500,000 people voted, can we really say that INEC did its job properly? That is even by the admission of the commission itself.